Good evening and welcome to the February 24th, 2026 Council Planning Public Meeting. Members of the public may watch and or participate in this open meeting using any of the following methods. Attend in person at the North Dumfries Community Conference located at 295 Kingsville Road. Attend electronically to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda by registering with the Clerks Division. Watch the live streaming by accessing the meeting on the Township page. The live stream is for viewing only and there's no direct participation. Submit written comments to the clerk's office in advance of the meeting. The correspondence is provided to the mayor and council prior to the meeting and will be part of the official record. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank everyone for joining us this evening. We appreciate your participation. As we come together to serve community, I ask that we create a welcoming and positive environment for everyone that includes respect. That we listen to each other with care, speak thoughtfully, and engage kindly with one another. Kindness. That we treat everyone, council, staff, and the public with respect and understanding. Inclusion. That we embrace diverse perspectives and respect each other's opinions. By listening to other people's opinions, even those that we don't agree with, we learn to expand our knowledge and see how other people look at things. And together we can make this meeting space one with respect, kindness, and inclusion at the heart of everything we do. Behavior that's disrespectful, aggressive, or intimidating will result in those individuals being asked to leave the meeting. And now I just call the meeting to order. Can I have approval of the agenda, Councilor Tilly, please?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Osmer, that council adopt the February 24th, 2026 council planning public meeting agenda as presented with the following addendum. 1. Add 3 pieces of correspondence received for item 7.1.1 report PD 13/2026 proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 1830 Wrigley Road, file number ZC 0525.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Indigenous acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land on which we gather today as the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada, but their only words. Our actions speak louder than that. They welcomed us into this country. They respected us, they shared with us, and we evolved in overture. Now we're coming around to understanding what we did wrong in the past and how we can come to mutual respect. And I had a lot of dealings with them in the past few years, and it has always been with graciousness, with respect, with kindness. They don't want to take back the land. They don't want to cause us more money or anything else. They want to be recognized for who they were. And I'm going to tell you a story about that our Air News produced when they found out that the first NHL hockey player came from Air, Buddy Miracle. And they said, how come nobody knew about Buddy before? And it was because the family had hid the children so they wouldn't have to go to residential schools. So Buddy played for New York, and the New York team sent us up to Jersey. And we welcomed the chief, David Hill, at that time, and sent him out to present with Buddy's church. And Ava said, this is what reconciliation is. This is recognizing that we can accomplish, that we can work together and do things. It was one of the proudest moments I had with this community and with this. I'm so proud of the owners for doing the article. And that's what it's about. It's about respecting one another, even if we disagree. So thank you. Sorry for going on. We'll have a moment of silence on that, please. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Committee of Adjustment, Councilor Rose, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Osner, that the council meeting adjourned at 6:04 p.m. to sit as Committee of Adjustment for the purposes of holding public meetings pursuant to provisions of the Planning Act.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And Council Austin, the motion please to go to committee of adjustment.
Move by myself, second by Scott Kelly, that committee adopt the February 24th, 2026 Committee of Adjustment agenda as presented.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Dr. Tilly, please, the minutes for the committee of adjustment. Oh, my apologies, first I have to ask if there's a conflict of interest with anyone in the committee of adjustment. Seeing none, now Council Tilly, please.
Moved by myself, second by Derek Osmer, that the committee approve the committee of adjustment meeting minutes dated January 26, 2026.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. It does get more after soon. Okay, now the hearing public meetings, minor variance and consent application, 6.5.1, report number PD 09/2026, minor variance application for 1661 Morrison Road, file number A-0226. Notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Clerk's Department to request a notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings on this application. There's a sign-in sheet on the table at the side here of the meeting room to complete for those who wish future notification related to this file. Brock Linkletter, Senior Planner, will present this application. Brock, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following presentation has been prepared to present the details regarding minor variance application A0226 for the Lance municipally addressed as 1661 Morrison Road. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal and to solicit comments from members of the public. The subject property is located along the inside road curve on Morrison Road, approximately 150 meters north of the intersection of Morrison Road and Dundas Street South. The township's municipal boundary with the city of Cambridge is located immediately west of the subject property on the opposite side of Morrison Road. Property has an approximate lot area of 0.8 hectares with a lot frontage of 55.1 meters along Morrison Road on the west lot line and 123.5 meters along Morrison Road on the north lot line. Property contains an existing industrial building comprised of a combination of showroom and warehouse space. The building has a current building footprint of approximately 1,654 square meters or 17,800 square feet. As noted on the slide, the property is a corner lot with frontage on the Morrison Road along both its north and west lot lines. And under the zoning bylaw, the front lot line for a corner lot is defined as the shorter street abutting lot line, and as such, the west lot line is considered the front lot line. The property is zoned Z10 industrial in the township zoning bylaw and is designated dry industrial within the Morrison rural settlement area in the township's official plan. The purpose of this proposed minor variance application is to facilitate a building addition of 951 square meters to the existing industrial building on the subject property. Following the proposed addition, the expanded industrial building would have a total footprint of approximately 2,605 square meters or 28,040 square feet. The proposed building addition is located towards the south side of the existing building, and due to its proximity to the property's south lot line, the addition would result in a side yard setback that does not comply with the zoning bylaws minimum requirement, and accordingly, a minor variance application is required to permit the proposed addition. The applicant has currently submitted a site plan, concurrently submitted a site plan application, which is being reviewed in conjunction with this minor variance application to ensure that the requested zoning relief is evaluated within the context of a complete and functional site design. This slide illustrates the proposed site plan for the subject property. The existing building footprint is shown in blue and the proposed addition area is shown in orange to the south. As you can see from the plan, the proposed building addition extends southward from the existing building footprint, and the reduced side yard setback along the south lot line is what triggers the need for the minor variance. Looking at the specific variance being requested, the proposed 951 square meter addition would result in a provided minimum side yard setback of approximately 2.5 meters along the south lot line, whereas section 15.3.3 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum side yard setback that is equal to 1/2 of the building height, which in this case is 3.66 meters. Therefore, the owner is requesting relief from this provision to permit a reduced minimum side yard setback of 2.5 meters along the south lot line, which is a reduction of approximately 1.16 meters from the bylaw requirement. The slide provides some visual context for the subject property and the proposed development. The top left photo shows the view of the subject property from Morrison Road along the north side, where the existing industrial building and showroom frontage are visible. The top right photo shows the view from Morrison Road along the west side of the property, where the where the existing warehouse portion of the building is visible. And at the bottom of the slide is a proposed building elevation for the south face of the expanded building. This is the side of the building that will be facing the south lot line where the reduced setback is being requested. Looking at correspondence received to date through this public and agency consultation. With respect to public correspondence, as of the date of this meeting, there has been no public correspondence received from any members of the public. Any correspondence received following this meeting or during the public meeting will be reviewed by staff and incorporated into a future recommendation report to the committee. Looking at agency correspondence, the Region of Waterloo, GRCA, Waterloo Catholic District School Board, and Canada Post have all confirmed they have no comments or objections to the proposed applications. RJ Burnside, the Township Fire Department, the MTO, and Grandbridge Energy have provided comments specifically directed to the site plan application, but have noted that they have no concerns regarding the minor variance. The Township's building department has also provided general comments pertaining to requirements at the building permit stage, and any additional comments received will be forwarded to the applicant and addressed in a future report to the committee. At this time, staff's recommendation is that PD report number 09/2026 be received and that all comments and correspondence be returned to staff for consideration into a future report on the disposition of this matter. In preparing that recommendation report, staff will be considering the following: all comments and correspondence received during the consultation process, whether the proposed variance satisfies the criteria of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, any potential impacts on surrounding properties resulting from the proposed building addition, as well as confirming that adequate provision of off-street parking and loading facilities are provided in recognition of the proposed building addition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Would the applicant like to speak, Mr. Wright? Come forward.
Madam Mayor, members of council staff, thank you. My name is Andrew Head from Gardens for the Net Zoning Consultants. I'm here on behalf of the landowner at Morrison Road. As you can see, this is a pretty straightforward minor variance application. The intent of the side yard is to allow maintenance to be able to be completed on the side of the building. With 2.1 meters, that is more than sufficient space for them to put a ladder up to address any of that kind of concerns. This is a pinch point where it's not the whole building that is being requested for the side yard, but it's the way that the building designs to facilitate future warehousing as well as future expansion needs if they require it. It's pretty straightforward application. You know, I'm looking for your support, and if I'm here to answer any questions about that.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public that wish to make a statement on this application? Seeing none, members of the council, any questions or comments? Councilor Williams, please. Councilor Williams, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I just was wondering a clarification. The map seems to show that this property and the adjacent property are being kind of like used together. Is that true? Is that the driveways seem to kind of merge there?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Wilms. I do see what you're talking about there. It does look like there's some potentially shared aisle or drive aisle access there with the property to the south. However, we will review that more in depth during the site plan application stage and ensure that the correct protections are in place for that.
Any further questions, council? Councilor Austin, please, the motion.
Move on myself, second by Scott Tilley, that PD report number 09-2026 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for consideration in a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next is 6.5.2, report number 2026, my variance application for 1226 Dumfries Road, file number 3-04/26. Notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Clerk's Department to request a notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or convening of future meetings on this application. There is a sign-in sheet on the table to my right. Of the meeting room, and you can complete it so that you will get notified of a future meeting. Christina Basil, planner RGIS, petition will present this application. Good, welcome, Christina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the following presentations for minor variance application 804/26 for the property located on 1226 Dumfries Road. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal, to solicit comments and identify issues or matters to be assessed by staff. The property is located on the west side of Dumfries Road, south of the intersection of Greenfield Road and Dumfries Road. The property consists of a one-story single detached dwelling, an existing additional dwelling unit, and an accessory building. The property is approximately 5 hectares in size with a lot frontage of 150 meters on Dumfries Road. Surrounding land uses are agricultural and rural residential. The property is zoned Z1 agriculture with site-specific zoning exemption 20.1.54 and designated agricultural in the township of Dumfries. The purpose of the application is to facilitate the construction of a new 2-story single detached dwelling on the subject property. As part of the proposal, the existing principal dwelling is to be reclassified and recognized as a coach house, which includes an attached garage and a walkout basement. In addition, an existing detached accessory building containing a dwelling unit is proposed to be converted to an accessory building only with the dwelling unit removed. The new principal dwelling, shown in red, will have a building footprint of approximately 123 square meters and a total gross floor area of 227.5 square meters. An existing accessory building located within the footprint of the new dwelling will be demolished to accommodate this new construction. The existing principal dwelling, shown in green, which is proposed to be recognized as a coach house, is approximately 168 square meters. The coach house includes an attached accessory garage, which has a footprint of 47.8 square meters, and the coach house also includes a walkout basement. The existing second accessory building, shown in blue, which is currently utilized as an additional dwelling unit, is proposed to be converted to an accessory building only with the dwelling unit removed. The converted accessory building will have a building footprint of approximately 74 square meters. The 3D rendering on the screen is an image of the proposed 2-story principal dwelling. The following minor variances are being requested. Section 6.40.7 permits a maximum coach house size of 40% of the footprint of the principal dwelling unit. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a maximum size of 137% of the footprint of the principal dwelling unit. The section 6.40.8 II establishes that a coach house cannot be located closer to the street line than a principal dwelling. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit the coach house to be located closer to the street line than the principal dwelling. And section 6.40.10 establishes that a basement is not permitted in a coach house. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit the basement within the coach house. The photo on the top left is the existing principal dwelling, which is to be converted to the coach house. The image in the bottom left is the existing accessory dwelling unit, which is to be converted to the accessory building only. And the image on the right shows an existing accessory building that is proposed to be demolished, and where the new 2-story principal dwelling will be constructed. This image is a panoramic view of the property. The left side of this image, where the driveway is facing towards the road frontage, and that's where the existing principal dwelling is located in behind those trees. As you come further into the property where the image was taken, you will reach the existing accessory building shown on the right of the image. This is the accessory building that will be demolished and where the new 2-story dwelling will be constructed. And then tucked in behind that accessory building on the right of the image was the existing dwelling unit. There's been no correspondence received from any members of the public at this time. There have been no concerns from the fire department or Canada Post. Six Nations of the Grand River have requested that the proposed development use bird friendly glass and lighting, and planning staff are still awaiting their review comments. Staff recommends that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter. Staff will be considering matters including all comments and correspondence received and whether the development meets the criteria of the forecasts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. I see Karen McMillan, Elizabeth Helling, and Zachary Buchanan are available to answer questions. So we'll go to questions. Anybody in the public have any comments or questions? Councilors, any comments or questions? Councilor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two comments. I don't know if these comments need an answer now or just to be put on file for when the application moves forward. I don't quite understand why this is like when we have a principal dwelling that we're gonna convert, they're going to convert into a coach house. I don't understand what the difference of converting a principal dwelling into a coach house means. I don't understand why the property is not being severed if they want to build another house and maintain the existing dwelling. And the question is this just an easier way to go around building a second dwelling or is there no difference between severing the property and? Because to me, it looks like there's two principal dwellings being built on the property, which makes it a lot easier to sever afterwards.
Through Madam Mayor to Council Listeners, so this we can provide more description in our report, but generally our official plan policies wouldn't permit a severance of this property the way it is now, so we can't necessarily look at an option of severance. When it comes to the converting the coach house, given the proposed dwelling that the owners want to build, it's significantly larger. So we wouldn't be able to look at that being a coach house. So this is kind of an option we've looked at to kind of, it's a little bit more supportable policy wise of going about it this way. But we can provide some more context to it in our report.
Yeah, I want those comments added to it. I mean, I just want to be clear on the whole process of, because most of the coach houses that we see are, yeah, you know, when something like this happens, you're down around 40%, it's not 137%. So that's a big number. So we always worry about precedents when something like this happens. I realize the property's large, but I just, these are all questions I want to be added to. Like I said, they don't need to be debated tonight. I just want them added to the file. Thank you.
CEO McNeely.
So Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Oster, you also had a query about building permit process or what would be included in future building permits. There is no difference whether it's designated either as an additional dwelling unit in the form of a coach house, conversion of that from a principal residence to a coach house, or the construction of the new principal dwelling. All requirements under the building code would continue to apply, as well as design for the associated septic system to support the development or redevelopment. So there is no fast tracking, there's no streamlining in that respect. All standards would apply regardless.
Councilor Austin.
Okay, I said I didn't want to debate it, I'm debating it. So let's hypothetically go into the future, this happens, it gets done, they sever the property. This is the one property to be designated as a coach house now. Will it have to be flipped back to a principal dwelling? Like this, like I don't understand that. Can you sever a property with a coach house versus a principal dwelling?
CEO McNeely.
So Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Oster, the classification of the coach house or additional dwelling unit as contemplated under provincial regulations is just to acknowledge that a second or third dwelling can occupy as of right within one singular property title. The province made those changes in 2022, 2023. If there was to be a severance in the future, the fact that perhaps is a separate title for what is today to be considered the coach house and the principal residence, they would now become principal residences on each of those separate properties in title. It is just dealing with aligning with the provincial regulation that allows, as of right on a property, multiple residential units. We have put forward a standard where generically the second or third unit, as the case may be, would be ancillary to the principal residence. In this case, we've got an existing principal residence by its mass is being converted into the principal residence because they wish to pursue a new build as the new principal residence. It's a little bit unique in that context, but the principles of the overarching, does it fit within the context of the property? Can it be properly serviced, in this case, by well and septic system? Are there any impact on adjacent uses, including the sensitive features? All those remain relevant.
Councillor Austin.
Last question, I promise.
In writing.
So then, why do we bother having a limit on a coach house then? Because something like this could be handled by staff rather than coming to council.
Senior McNeil.
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Oster. There are always going to be anomalies, hence why there is the minor variance process. Through your zoning, you try and frame provisions or regulations that deal with the majority or the mainstream. And direction in our official plan is that massing is generally secondary to the principal building. And that is the vast majority of the applications that the committee has viewed and dealt with. As noted, this is a bit of an anomaly where we're converting, reclassifying an existing building, and facilitating the construction of a new two-story principal dwelling for the property owner. Hence why the minor variance. This is not a regular or common occurrence. Let me apply this now in the context of an urban lot where we're dealing with a property that's under 1/4 of an acre size. Most people wouldn't want to see the conversion being the opposite way. In most of our cases, if I look at a traditional subdivision lot, whereas of right, 3 dwelling units are permitted, you typically want the more dominant, the principal building, to be closer to the street, and it frames the edge of the street, and the second units, or third unit as the case may be, whether it be in a coach house or an apartment within the principal building, you wish them to be ancillary by scale, smaller in context, and not the dominant element on the residential lot. Your zone standards have to have some elasticity, and that's why there's the minor variance mechanism.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Can I have, so the public, any questions or comments? No, Councillor Stan. The motion, please, Councillor Williams.
Moved by myself, seconded
Moved by myself, second by Derek Oster, that PD report number 12-2026 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for consideration in a future report to the committee under the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Report number 6.5.3, report number PD 14/2026, minor variance application for 3241 Roseville Road, file number A-03/26. Notice has been given in accordance with the plan. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Police Department to request a notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings on this application. There's a sign-in sheet on the table to my right, the meeting room. To complete to those who wish future notice related to this file. Michael Compost, Manager of Planning, will present this application. Michael, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
The following minor variance application for 3241 Roseville Road has been submitted by Carindale Contracting Limited on behalf of the owner. And it relates to a proposal to expand the existing home on the property to better meet the needs of the owner, while also bringing a few longstanding site conditions into zoning compliance. As with all public meetings, tonight's purpose is to present the proposal to the committee and members of the public, to hear any comments or concerns that may be raised, and to identify matters that staff should consider as we prepare a recommendation report on the application. The subject lands are located on the south side of Roseville Road within the Roseville settlement area. And this is an established rural residential area surrounded by a mix of residential and active agricultural lands. The property is approximately 0.26 hectares in size, with approximately 20 meters of frontage onto Roseville Road. And today the lot contains a 1.5-story single detached dwelling, as well as a detached garage at the rear of the property. And the home is serviced by a private well and septic system. From a planning perspective, the property is designated settlement residential and ancillary in the township official plan, and it's zoned Z3 rural residential in our zoning bylaw. The owner is proposing to expand the existing home with a single-story addition on its eastern side, along with an attached garage that would sit in front of that addition. The residential addition itself is about 75 square meters, and the proposed garage is just over 30 square meters, bringing the total building area of the house and garage to roughly 160 square meters, or 1,710 square feet once completed. The application also seeks to recognize a few existing site conditions on the property that do not comply with the current zoning bylaw, including the location and the lot coverage of an existing accessory building at the rear of the property, and an existing driveway that's located in front of the established building lot. The elevations that are shown on the screen illustrate the proposed addition. So the top drawing shows the front elevation as viewed from Roseville Road, and the lower drawing shows the eastern elevation as viewed from the eastern property line. And these just help to demonstrate the scale and appearance of the proposed addition in relation to the existing home. The site plan on the screen illustrates how the proposed addition is positioned on the existing lot. And you'll notice that the portion of the site plan shown on the right-hand side is simply a continuation of the drawing, and it represents the rear of the property where the existing accessory garage is located. The addition is located along the eastern side of the dwelling and extends toward the rear of the property, with the attached garage situated in front of the addition and closer to Roseville Road. Along the eastern property line, you can see the reduced interior side yard setback that is being requested to accommodate the addition. And the plan also identifies the existing detached accessory garage at the rear, as well as the existing loop driveway located in front of the established building lot. And these are existing conditions on the property that the applicant is seeking to recognize through the minor variance application. So as such, the applicant is seeking relief from 4 total variances as part of this application. First, under section 6.4.2 of the zoning bylaw, an accessory building is required to be located a minimum of 1 meter from an interior or rear lot line. And the applicant is asking to recognize an existing accessory building that is located approximately 0.6 meters from the interior lot line. Second, under section 6.13.1b, off-street parking is required to be located behind the established building line. And relief is requested to recognize the existing loop driveway that is located in front of that line. Third, under section 8.3.3a, a minimum interior side yard setback of 1.8 meters is required for a 1-story dwelling in the Z3 zone. And the applicant is requesting a reduced setback of approximately 1.25 meters to allow the proposed residential addition. And then finally, under section 8.3.7a, accessory buildings in the Z3 zone are limited to a maximum lot coverage of 4% of the lot area. And the existing accessory building represents approximately 6.8% lot coverage. And so the applicant is requesting relief to recognize that existing condition. So these are just some photos that were taken by staff during our site visit earlier this month. The image on the left shows the existing dwelling as viewed from Roseville Road, which helps illustrate the current scale of the house and its relationship to the street. So the addition would be located on the left side of the house there. And the photo on the right shows the existing accessory garage at the rear of the property, along with the driveway that runs along the side of the dwelling. And this is the accessory structure that has the reduced interior side yard setback and the higher lot coverage that we referenced on the previous slide. So at this time of preparing this report for tonight's meeting, the township had not received any written comments from members of the public. If any comments are received before the close of the public meeting or following this evening's meeting, they will be circulated to the committee and reviewed by staff, and they will be addressed as part of a future recommendation report to council. The application was circulated to applicable agencies and township departments for review and comment. The township building department provided standard comments, noting that any future construction must comply with the Ontario Building Code and obtain the required building permits. He also advised that a grading and a drainage plan will be required prior to permit issuance, and that septic servicing will be reviewed at the building permit stage. The building department also further recommended that a legal survey be provided to confirm the building setbacks and that the driveway setback from the property line be verified. Canada Post reviewed the application and indicated that they have no objections to the application. And any additional comments that are received following tonight's public meeting will also be reviewed by staff and then incorporated into the future recommendation. So at this time, staff is recommending that the report be received and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for consideration. Following tonight's meeting, staff will review any public and agency comments that are received and will evaluate the application against the 4 tests under Section 35(1) of the Planning Act. And we will also, that includes considering whether the requested variances are minor in nature, whether they are desirable for the appropriate development of the property, and whether they maintain the general intent and purpose of both the township official plan and the general zoning bylaw. And then we will also consider the overall appropriateness of the proposal for the property and any potential impacts on surrounding lands before bringing this recommendation forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. The consultant is here online, and should we have any questions? Any members of the public have any comments or questions? Seeing none, councillors. Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councillor Tilly?
Moved by myself, second by Derek Osner, the PD report number 14-2026, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for consideration in a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? It's carried, thank you. Six point 6.1, report number TD 10-2026, money variance application for 9 Taylor Court, file number A-21/25. Notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Police Department to request a notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision of the convening of future meetings on this application. There's a sign-in sheet in the table to my right at the meeting room to complete for those who wish future notices related to this file. Christina Resino, IGIS, will present this application. Christina, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following presentations for minor variance application A-21/25 for the property located at Mount Taylor Court. The purpose of this report is to present a staff recommendation for the committee's consideration. Public meeting was held on January 26, 2026. The property is located on the southwest corner of the intersection of Taylor Court and Greenfield Road. This property consists of a 2-story single detached dwelling. It's approximately 28 hectares in size with a lot frontage of 60 meters onto Taylor Court. Surrounding land uses are agricultural and rural residential. The property is zoned Z2 rural residential and designated agricultural and township official plan. The purpose of the application is to facilitate the construction of a 2-story detached accessory building in the rear yard of the subject property. The main floor is intended to be a garage with the second story proposed to be used as storage. The garage will have a building footprint of 9.14 by 9.14 meters with a total area of 83.5 square meters and a proposed building height of 7.48 meters. On the screen, we see floor plan of both the ground floor and second floor. The owner is requesting the following minor variance. Section 6.4.7 permits a maximum accessory building height of 5.2 meters. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit an accessory building height of 7.48 meters. The photo on the screen is a view of the property from Taylor Court. The proposed detached garage will be constructed in the area circled in yellow. No correspondence has been received from any members of the public, and there have been no concerns from any of the commenting agencies. There was one comment received from the Committee of Adjustment at the public meeting on January 26th, which requested clarification regarding the Six Nations of the Grand River comment about the bird-friendly glass and lighting. Staff can confirm that this is not a requirement of the building code and is not otherwise enforceable. It is simply a suggestion and recommendation for the property owner to consider. Planning staff is of the opinion that the requested variance meets the 4 tests of the minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. The first being that the variance is minor in nature. The requested increase in height is modest, and given the rear yard location and existing trees screening, it's not expected to result in any adverse impacts. Secondly, that the variance is desirable. The proposed garage provides additional storage for the property owner while remaining compatible with the character and function of the surrounding residential area. There that the variance meets the intent of the bylaw. The accessory structures are permitted within the Z2 zone, and aside from the minor height increase, the proposal complies with all of the other applicable zoning regulations. And lastly, that the variance meets the intent of the official plan. The property is designated settlement residential, which permits residential uses and accessory structures, and the proposal remains consistent with that designation. Planning staff recommend that minor variance application A21/25 be approved.
Thank you, Kristen. The applicant is online, should there be any questions, do any member of the public have questions? Councilors. Councilor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question was, I'm sorry, I was trying to flip through this. Can we go back to the picture of the garage? So when I look at the house, is that what the garage is gonna look like? Like the colors and schematics and everything?
The applicant or owner may be able to confirm that. That's generally the rendering they provide us to give a conceptual idea, but I'm not like 100% sure.
Mason, are you able to comment?
Because now, if you can you go to the screen where the house is? Picture the existing dwelling.
Hi there.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? You can hear me fine?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Great. Sorry for the crying baby in the background. Yeah, the exterior color is gonna match the exterior color of our house. If you can see the brick on the bottom half of the garage, it's really to tie in the house as well. If it's a visual question that you're asking about.
Councilor Austin?
Well, we've discussed this before with buildings that are being put on property, how they should kind of match with the facade, match with the neighborhood, match. That looks significantly different than the principal dwelling.
Yeah, so the plan is to match the exterior of the house. The bottom half brick is going to match as close as possible to the existing or our property that we live at. And funny enough, the top half of our house used to have that same color, but we changed, or the prior owner changed it to a darker gray, almost black. And the plan is to continue with that that look.
So the top is gonna be white like that?
No, the top of the garage is going to match the house color.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for the public, council? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councilor Wells? Thank you, Christine.
Moved by myself, second by
Second by Derek Osler, that PD report number 10-2026 be received. For that minor variance application A-21/25 being a request to permit a maximum accessory building height of 7.5 meters. Whereas section 6.4.7 of general zoning bylaw number 689-83 permits a maximum accessory building height of 5.2 meters. Be approved.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Next is 6.6.2, report number PDU 2026, variance application for 1753 Shelley Road, file number 8-0/26. Notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the clerk's department to request notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or convening of future meetings on this application. There's a sign-in sheet on the table at the side of the room, the meeting room, to complete for those who wish future notice related to this file. Christina Casanova, planner on GIS, will present this application. Welcome back, Christina.
The bond presentation is for minor variance application 801/26 for the property located at 1753 Charlotte Road. The purpose of this report is to present a staff recommendation for the committee's consideration, and a public meeting was held on January 26th. The property is located on the east side of Charlotte Road, south of the intersection of Charlotte Road and Clyde Road. The property consists of a one-story single detached dwelling and an accessory building. This property is approximately 1 hectare in size with a lot frontage of 50 meters onto Charlotte Road. Surrounding land uses are agricultural and rural residential. The property is zoned Z1 agriculture with site-specific zoning exemption 20.1.191 and designated agriculture in the township official plan. The purpose of the application is to facilitate the construction of a coach house and a single-story accessory building in the rear yard of the subject property. The proposed accessory garage will be 7.7 meters by 6.7 meters in size with a total area of approximately 47 square meters. The proposed coach house is irregularly shaped and will have a total area of approximately 154 square meters. The coach house will have a building height of approximately 5 meters. A basement is also proposed within the coach house to accommodate the necessary mechanical equipment. The principal dwelling unit has a building footprint of approximately 241.5 square meters. The proposed coach house is permitted to be 40% of the size, which is approximately 96.6 square meters. The owner is requesting a variance to exceed the size limit. On the screen is an elevation and the floor plan of the proposed coach house. The following minor variances are being requested. Section 6.40.7 permits a maximum coach house size of 40% of the footprint of the principal dwelling. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a maximum size of 64% of the footprint of the principal dwelling unit. And section 6.40.10 establishes that a basement is not permitted in a coach house. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a basement within the coach house. This photo is a view of the principal dwelling from Sherwood Road, and the proposed coach house will not be visible from the road frontage. The photo on the left is a view of the access to the rear yard. This currently provides access to an existing accessory building and will be extended to provide access to the proposed coach house and the accessory garage. The photo on the right is the approximate location of the proposed coach house and accessory garage. No correspondence has been received from any members of the public, and there have been no concerns raised from any departments or committees. Planning staff is of the opinion that the requested variances meet the forecast of a minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. First, that the variance is minor in nature. The coach house will be located in the rear yard, largely out of view from the road frontage, and the size increase is modest and won't negatively impact the neighboring properties or the rural character. Second, that the variance is desirable. The proposed development creates an additional dwelling unit for a family. Third, that the variance meets the intent of the bylaw. The coach house remains subordinate to the main dwelling, fits the rural context, and complies with all of the other zoning requirements. And four, that the variance meets the intent of the official plan. The proposal maintains a low density residential character and allows the permitted accessory residential use. Planning staff recommend that minor variance application 801/26 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. And I believe the applicant is online. Should there be any questions? Any members of the public wish to make any comments? Councilors. Can I have the middle? Oh, Councilor Tibbetts.
Through you, Mayor, to the staff. I've just noticed in the last, in a couple of these variances that the coach houses are intended not to have basements, and I'm just wondering why, or if it's necessary to have that rule on coach houses, if it's something that isn't a big deal.
So, Madam Mayor, actually, staff is going through a review of our current zoning provisions as it relates to coach houses. Partly in recognition that the township was actually ahead of the province in terms of allowing the ancillary dwelling units. Province then brought in the regulations, so we need to do a bit of a cleanup to align better with the provincial regulation. But the other is some of our experience in dealing with coach houses or its ancillary dwelling units in principal buildings. One of the aspects of why originally we did not want a basement is because we were trying to limit the amount of occupancy. We are aware in certain urban centers where the basement has been used as additional rental space beyond what was the original intent. And so it was the conversion of those spaces without necessarily getting a building permit and or exceeding the number of units that was contemplated as part of original approvals, and in this case by the province, allowing for 3 residential dwelling units. So we believe we've developed a workaround, so that scenario could not be achieved. And one of the things that we're actually looking at is allowing the coach house to have a basement, in part because it'll actually make the unit somewhat smaller on grade level because of the utilities that are typically required. Generally speaking, the cost for construction is marginally cheaper because the building is more contained and you don't have either the massing and or the truss design that's typically required for a larger or bigger span of a building. So we are in the process of cleaning that up. It is our intent to bring that before council before the summer recess.
Thank you, Sir. Any other questions asked? Seeing none, could I have the motion, please, Councillor Tilly? No, I'm sorry, Councillor Austin.
No, I got it.
Move on myself, second by Scott Chili, that PD report number 11-2026 be received. And that minor variance application A-0126 being requested to permit a maximum coach house size of 64% or 154 square meters, where section 640.7 of general zoning bylaw 689-8 permits a maximum coach house size of 40% of the footprint of the principal dwelling unit. And B, a basement within the coach house, whereas section 6.40.10 of the general zoning bylaw 689-83 establishes that a basement is not permitted in coach house.
All those in favor? Okay. So, Councillor Tilly, motion to comment. Justin, thank you.
Moved by myself, second by Leader Williams, that pursuant to the Planning Act, the public meeting of the video adjustment be adjourned at 6:51 PM.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Public Meeting Planning Act report number PD 13-2026 proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 1830 Wrigley Road, file number ZC-05/25. Notice has been given in accordance with the planning. You can all say it with me if you like. The clerk will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the first department to request a notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings on this applications. Guess what the sign-in sheet is? The sign-in sheet is at the table to my right. And please complete for those that wish to have future notice related to this file. Michael Canfold, Manager of Planning, will present this application. Michael, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the application before you today is a zoning bylaw amendment for the property municipally addressed as 1830 Wrigley Road. This presentation is being provided as part of the statutory public meeting process under the Planning Act. So the purpose of tonight is to introduce the application, outline the proposal, and to receive comments from council and members of the public. No decision on the merits of the application is being recommended this evening. So the subject lands are municipally addressed as 1830 Wrigley Road, and they're located on the north side of Wrigley Road, just east of the community of Ayr. The property is approximately 39.6 hectares in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of 506 meters onto Wrigley Road, which is identified as a regional road. The lands are currently used for agricultural purposes, and in the northern portion of the property, there are natural heritage features, including portions of the Roseville Swamp Cedar Creek provincially significant wetland, and associated woodlands, which are regulated under the Grand River Conservation Authority. Surrounding land uses are primarily agricultural lands and existing aggregate operations, with the community of Ayr located immediately to the west. From a planning policy perspective, the lands are designated rural area and protected countryside, and are also identified as mineral aggregate resource area in both the regional and township official plan. The property is currently zoned Z1 agricultural under the township zoning bylaw. So the applicant has submitted a zoning bylaw amendment application requesting that the lands be rezoned from the Z1 agricultural zone to the Z14 mineral aggregates zone in order to permit the extraction of aggregate resources on the property as an interim use. This zoning bylaw amendment is being advanced together with an application under the Aggregate Resources Act for a Class A above water license from the Ministry of Natural Resources. And the Planning Act and the ARA processes run separately, but in coordination as part of the overall review. In terms of scale, approximately 29.9 hectares of the property are proposed to be licensed for extraction with a maximum annual extraction rate of up to 1 million tons. And I'll also add that there is an estimated 7 million tons available to be extracted from this property. An extraction is proposed to occur above the water table, maintaining a minimum separation of 1.5 meters from the high water table, as confirmed through the supporting hydrogeological analysis. So the proposed operation would proceed in 2 phases, moving from west to east across the property. This approach is intended to minimize the amount of time that active extraction occurs closest to the community of air, while also allowing for progressive rehabilitation of areas that have been completed as the operation moves across the site. Processing activities, including screening and crushing, are proposed to occur in the southeast portion of the property on the pit floor, consistent with standard Aggregate Resources Act requirements. And the applicant is proposing operating hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays and 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturdays, with no operations proposed on Sundays or on statutory holidays. Aggregate materials would be transported from the site using Wrigley Road, which is a regional road that already accommodates aggregate haul traffic associated with other operations in the area. The proposed haul route directs trucks east along Wrigley Road towards Dumfries Road and Sprague's Road, and no haul traffic is proposed to travel west toward the community of air. The primary truck access to the site is proposed from an existing driveway located near the eastern limit of the site of the property frontage, which is the closest point to the proposed processing area and is positioned as far as practical from the community of air. The transportation impact study estimates approximately 14 truck trips during the AM peak hour and 14 during the PM peak hour, and concludes that traffic generated by the proposed operation is expected to have negligible impact on surrounding intersections, subject to ongoing review by the regional water. The application proposes a number of environmental protection and mitigation measures that are informed by technical studies that were submitted as part of the application. If you look on the map on the right, you'll see the natural heritage features located in the northern and eastern portions of the property, as shown in green. These include portions of the Roseville Swamp Cedar Creek provincially significant wetland and associated woodlands. And extraction setbacks are proposed here, including a 30-meter setback from the wetland and a 10-meter setback from woodland features to protect those natural heritage features. Along the western property line, which is the side closest to the community of air, vegetated berms are proposed to provide screening and to help reduce potential noise and dust impacts toward neighboring properties. And in addition, a 15-meter setback to the extraction limit is proposed along that western property line. Additional berming is also proposed along the frontage on Wrigley Road, which you can see along the southern edge of the site to provide visual screening from the roadway and to help manage dust from truck movements. And a 30-meter setback to the extraction limit is proposed from the Wrigley Road frontage. Within the operational area itself, groundwater monitoring wells and spill contingency measures are proposed to ensure protection of groundwater and surface water resources throughout the life of the operation. And finally, as extraction progresses across the site, areas that are completed would be rehabilitated, with final rehabilitation intended to return the lands to an agricultural after use consistent with the surrounding lands. So the subject lands, as I mentioned, are currently zoned Z1 agriculture under the Township zoning bylaw, which does not permit aggregate extraction. And the application is requesting that the lands be rezoned to Z14 mineral aggregates to allow for that extraction of aggregate resources and the associated on-site processing activities. As part of our review, staff are also considering the application of the Z12A environmental protection zoning to the portions of the property that contain wetlands and woodland features, so that those natural heritage features are protected through the zoning framework. The intent of the proposed zoning structure is to permit the aggregate extraction as an interim use on the appropriate portions of the property, while ensuring that environmental features are protected in a way that is consistent with the township official plan. In Ontario, all aggregate extraction operations do require a license under the Aggregate Resources Act, which is administered by the Ministry of Natural Resources. For this proposal, the applicant is seeking a Category 3 Class A above water license, which means that extraction must remain above the water table and comply with provincial standards confirmed through hydrogeological analysis. The Aggregate Resources Act process is separate from the Planning Act process, but they are reviewed in parallel, and the province will review the detailed operational, environmental, and technical aspects of the pit through the licensing process. The zoning bylaw amendment before council would establish the land use permissions that are necessary to allow the operation to proceed, subject to the outcome of the Aggregate Resources Act review. Notice of the application and the date of tonight's public meeting was circulated to property owners within 700 meters of the subject lands, and a notification sign was posted along the frontage of the property on Wrigley Road. At the time of preparing the report, one piece of correspondence had been received from the member of the public. The comments raised questions about the supporting technical studies, including matters related to traffic, noise, air quality, and the potential importation of excess soil. Since that report, we've also received additional comments that have been included as part of the addendum. These matters are being reviewed as part of the technical circulation process, and staff will respond to them in detail in a future recommendation report. Any additional comments that are received at tonight's public meeting or through the remainder of the consultation period will also be reviewed and addressed in that future report. The applicant also held a neighborhood information meeting on February 11th, 2026 as part of the Aggregate Resources Act process, where members of the consultant team were available to speak to residents and answer questions, and several residents that reside in proximity to their subject property attended that meeting that evening. The application was circulated to internal departments and external agencies for review, and a number of comments have been received to date. RJ Burnside, the township's engineering consultant, provided several technical comments. These relate primarily to the hydrogeological assessment, noise modeling, natural environment analysis, and rehabilitation planning. And they've also requested additional groundwater monitoring information and clarification to ensure consistency between the technical reports and the drawings that were provided. The region of Waterloo requested additional hydrogeological information, including groundwater chemistry sampling and vulnerability assessment work. And the region did not raise any concerns with the transportation analysis, subject to access design and regional permit requirements. The Grand River Conservation Authority has advised that they are not currently in support of the application at this time, pending additional environmental impact study information and further review of wetland boundaries, water balance analysis, floodplain limits, geotechnical matters, and groundwater impacts. And Grandbridge Energy provided standard servicing comments and advised that the applicant may be required to enter into servicing agreements and register easements as part of any future approvals. So these comments are typical at this stage of review for an aggregate application and will be addressed through the ongoing technical circulation process and reflected in a future recommendation report to council. Additional comments were received from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, who advised that they have no comments on the zoning bylaw amendment at this time, but will be involved in reviewing the Aggregate Resources Act application through the provincial licensing process. And the Waterloo Catholic District School Board also indicated that they have no comments or concerns with the application. All agency comments received through the circulation process will continue to be reviewed by staff and the applicant's consultant team, and any outstanding matters will be addressed prior to staff bringing forward a recommendation. So staff are recommending that no decision on the zoning bylaw amendment at this time, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report. Between now and that future report, staff will be reviewing all public and agency comments received through the circulation process. We'll be assessing land use compatibility with surrounding residences and environmental features, including matters related to noise, dust, vibration, haul routes, hours of operation, and limits of extraction. Staff will also be reviewing the potential impacts on surrounding agricultural operations and the ability to rehabilitate the lands to a comparable level of agricultural capability once extraction is complete, along with the proposed phasing plan and progressive rehabilitation approach. We will also be considering cumulative impacts in the context of nearby aggregate operations, including impacts on natural heritage features, groundwater resources, and surrounding sensitive land uses, and evaluating the proposal for consistency with the provincial planning statement, the Region of Waterloo official plan, and the Township official plan. As part of this work, staff will be drafting the site-specific zoning provisions that would regulate the operation, including permitted and ancillary uses, setbacks from the property lines, and environmental features, buffering, and screening requirements, and any other operational standards that may be appropriate based on the technical review. All of this information will be brought forward in a future recommendation report to council once the technical and policy review has been completed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. So does the applicant wish to make any comments? I have no more comments. I registered to speak. There's also Rebecca Walker on Zoom, Dave Newman on Zoom, William Chan, and Sully and Samantha Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council and staff, and thank you very much, Michael, for that very thorough presentation. I'm going to first introduce Matthew Cummins from JR Materials, the applicant, and Kevin Hurley is in the back row there, also with the company. So I don't want to repeat everything that Michael's presented already, so I just wanted to make a few comments to firstly introduce you to JR Materials in case you're not familiar with the company. Just a couple of highlights about the application. I may repeat a little bit of Michael's comments, and then just wanted to share some examples of rehabilitation work that JR has completed in the London area. So with that, okay. Oh, that's the arrow down.
To the.
I had a lesson before.
To the right.
the meeting started. I forgot. So JR Materials is part of the JR Group, which also includes a structural and civil engineering division. The company was founded by John Ertz in 1978, so it's a family business. Now in the second generation, and John's sons, Kevin, Ryan, and Jonathan, run the company businesses now. The materials division was previously operated as I say A-Rock, it's R-Rock aggregates. You've probably seen those signs if you're down in the London area. They operated maybe more than 10 pit locations, but approximately that number in that area. It has strong presence in Oxford and Middlesex counties, and recently opened an office in Cambridge 3 years ago to support their projects in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. I've highlighted a couple on, you can't read that screen, it's too small, but so some of the projects in the Waterloo area include the River Bleams Road extension, the Myers Road ramp, the RBJ Schlegel Park and Rec Complex, as well as the New Dundee Roundabout, the Frederick Street reconstruction, and the New Cowan Recreation Center on Huron Road. So they're quite active in that part of the business, and so this location would help support those projects in this area. I will say the company does have a very good reputation in the areas where they operate for excellent rehabilitation work, but also for contributions to community projects. And they have a goal, Matthew can probably tell you more about this, but a goal of contributing $100,000 each year to local community charities and other initiatives. Got that right? Michael has already highlighted some of the significant natural heritage features that overlap the property, particularly in the north end. And you can see the provincially significant wetland complex on the air photo there in green. The design of the site has been created to avoid extraction, obviously in that area, and to include setbacks from the wetland and from Cedar Creek. There's also compensation plantings that are proposed along the buffer, and those would be to replace the trees that are on that ridge. See the green ridge in between the two agricultural fields, sort of very high point of land there. There's monitoring of vegetated areas and an adaptive planting plan, as well as ecological monitoring to control invasive species. So those are some of the elements of the proposal. There's also an exclusion for any tree removal during the period from April 1st to September 30th. And that's to avoid the migratory bird season. And then there's also species at risk bats around the area, habitat around the area. There are 7 groundwater monitoring wells around the perimeter of the site that will record water level data quarterly. As mentioned, this is an above water table site, but that's always important to make sure that we're keeping track of where that high water table is and staying a minimum of 1.5 meters above that. And there's also a well water complaint response program outlined on the site plan. Let's see, there we go. That's, I think, the same image that was in Michael's presentation. It's an excerpt from the site plans. That's one of the operations pages. And it shows the intended phasing of the extraction would move from west to east across the site. You can probably just barely see on that there's these arcs on the site, and those are noise exclusion areas. So there'd be no processing within 400 meters of the residence that's on the west side of the site, and no processing within 250 meters of the residence that's across the road to the southwest. There's been an air quality assessment completed, which did consider cumulative impact or combined impacts of pit operation that's to the east, on Wrigley Road. And there's a dust management practice plan that's been included to provide some guidance to the operator to control dust on site. And then finally, this is, I just wanted to share, this is, I believe Zora Township. So these sites have now been surrendered. And I'm going to show you a series of air photos that kind of show you the sequence of extraction and rehab. It's a little bit like North Dumfries. There's a lot of gravel in Zora Township as well, but that's some of the agricultural rehab. And of course, the best test is if you can drive by a site, you don't know the gravel pit was ever there. So that's always the objective. So there's 4 images I'll just share with you. This is in the Putnam area, south of Road 60, and the 4 from 2006 to 2025. So if you look kind of north of where that large area of extraction is on the north side of the road, you can see a green field with some dots in it. Those are likely test pits. That's a site that was not open yet, but proposed for a license. And then to the west of that, another operation just starting there. Fast forward to 2013, and you can see those sites are well underway in the stages of extraction. Most of the site on the east side there, that was just a farm field, is quite disturbed at that stage. And then moving to 2019, rehabilitation has started in the northern sites. Extraction is progressing towards the road. And this is 2025. So the license that's the light brown field there, that's been surrendered now. And that was one of the images I showed at the beginning. So I think that's it for my presentation. I wanted to keep it short because I know we have some neighbors here that have some questions, and hopefully you do too. We do have some of our experts online. Our hydrogeologist wasn't able to make it tonight, but if there's anything very technical, I will defer that to one of the whole front.
Thank you. I'll start with the public and then we can ask questions if they need to. Members of the public, please give your name and address when you come up so we can put in the record.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think of Michelle Smith first and then Dawn Markle. And then Darcy. You're gonna have to go. Okay. Give her a minute.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilors, staff. My name is Bill Hall, and I'm the adjacent landowner just to the west of the proposed gravel pit. My main concern is the encroachment into the environmentally sensitive Cedar Creek Valley. On the pit to the west at 1940 Wrigley Road, the limit of extraction was at the top of the bank. That allowed for, beautiful natural berms to remain and protect the valley below. And I believe that this approach should continue to the east on this pit. I've retained a biologist. His name is Mark Heaton. He was a biologist for the Ministry of Natural Resources for 35 years, and now he does consulting. So he did a technical review of the natural environment report site plans. He found several deficiencies related to the proposed extraction limits. He's going to put a report together, but he listed them off, so I'll just quickly go through them if that's all right. Adjacent land policy 4.1.8, as described in the provincial planning statement, was not considered. This is a significant policy issue that has implications to the woodlands and significant wildlife habitat. Assessment of the 120-meter adjacent lands area is fundamental to understanding the potential impacts on the natural heritage features. Number 2, the species at risk assessment was limited to desktop analysis of records within 1 kilometer grids. No point data was acquired from the Natural Heritage Information Center. Therefore, the accuracy of the natural environment report assessment is questionable. He said, for example, if there's landing turtle records in the vicinity, habitat would need to be mapped based on current guidance from NECP. Number 3 is springs and seeps defined as significant wildlife habitat within the provincial planning statement were not identified or assessed. They've been documented on my property and adjacent lands. As such, the protection of groundwater recharge function for these features has been overlooked and not addressed within the Natural Environment Report. Number 4, amphibian breeding habitat, also defined as significant wildlife habitat within the provincial planning statement, was not thoroughly assessed. In 2022, there were woodland amphibians breeding in the open wetland on these lands. Number 5, significant woodlands have not been surveyed and staked by a qualified surveyor. This is an error in planning that should be rectified before any approval. Number 6, woodland polygon to 1.73 hectares in size has been classified as mineral cultural woodland community, in brackets CUW. Reviewing the ELC record in Appendix B of the NER does not substantiate the classification, as this form is incomplete. CVR value was not reported, and photographs were not provided. Based on remote sensing, tree canopy may exceed 60%. I don't really understand any of that last one. Maybe some of you guys do. But
Wait, we have like a copy of that for the clerk to put into the record.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. Yeah, I think it basically that strip where they propose taking out the trees. I question, I think it's a little more significant than what they're saying, and I think a proper study needs to be done. So yeah, in conclusion, maybe relocating the limit of extraction to the top, the natural berms that the glaciers left will protect the Cedar Creek Valley below. And I don't think that really that limit of extraction would really have a huge effect on the feasibility of the operation. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Bill. Can you make sure you email copy to the clerk? So
Sure.
they can put it on the record? Thank you. Michelle. All right.
So,
Name and address, please.
Michelle Smith and Dawn Markle, 1937 Wrigley Road.
Thank you.
So, a couple of our concerns were obviously the things that you always hear, and that is the dust, the well water, the noise, the backup beeping, decreased quality of life, property value decrease, trucking haul routes, hours of operation, entry lane location, screening and crushing and burn size and application. You will hear that across the board. That's pretty normal. In our specific case, we really would like the water monitoring program that they provide for their wells to include our properties well, as we're basically right there during the life of the pit, and guaranteed well water supply should any issues arise from the construction and operations of the pit. Which I think they've kind of covered that already in their plan from what I've overheard and seen. Increased tree planting along the south side along Wrigley Road. A lot of the trees that were planted, I don't know if they just didn't make it or what. So as you get closer to our residents, they're quite sparse. So I would like to see those filled in so they're as thick as the rest of the tree line along Wrigley. And so basically focusing in a good sized tree to try to keep up to the other trees that are there, and possibly a mixture for a visual, for our visual. We've got a beautiful field to look at now, and it would be nice to have something else to look at. And to continue the 3-meter berm on the west boundary, extending from Wrigley Road towards the north boundary for 125 meters. If you look at where we're sitting, we're gonna see that pit too much from, if we're looking east. The south side will be protected for us a little bit, but we're still gonna see it. So if they could take that berm back at 3 meters high and take it back 125 meters. I'm trying to think of things that can help our life beside a pit be somewhat bearable. The other thing the hours of operation, other than on exceptional times, I would rather just see the 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. weekdays. And I mean, if there's a real exceptional situation, that's something different. Maybe they can apply for that at that time or something. I'm not sure how that works. I I don't have any idea how that works. During the construction period, I would love to have a window washer, a spring and fall for the time that they're actually building that berm. Cause it will be craziness. And then, of course, the backup beeping. The night I was here of the information night, there was something was said about, there's something they can put on some of the vehicles that are, a different sound. I think it was referred to as a swooshing sound or something, rather than the backup beep. But I don't know if that can be done on all vehicles or if that's just on a truck, like, I don't know. But if there's any kind of alternative sounds other than that constant back beeping. And then, of course, there's that lane sort of part way down. That other gravel pit, they leased that lane from when John Hall owned that property. And I don't want to see that lane used for truck traffic going in and out. I'd rather them keep it to the far east, right beside where the other gravel pit is. And that's all I have to say about it. So good for me.
Thank you. Did you want to say anything?
No, that's.
Thank you very much. Darcy Bellette, are you online?
Dan Foxton Darcy did register, but he has not joined the Zoom meeting, so he's not in attendance.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the public? Go ahead, sir. Name and address, please.
Well, my name is Benjamin Barenhorst. I live at 372 Stanley Street. My wife Karina. So we're just under 600 meters to the proposed gravel pit. We do have some concerns about that. Just an immediate reference, when we purchased the house, we did actually look at whether the gravel pit was close, and it was far enough away that we weren't concerned. The reason we looked at that is because we also looked at a house in Brantford that was close to a gravel pit. And we talked to all the property owners on that road, and they universally, all of them told us, we can't sell the houses now, there's constant dust in the air. I clean my house 3-4 times a day, dust is everywhere, the noise is terrible, noise pollution, so property value, can't sell the house, noise pollution, dust. So we obviously did not buy there, we bought here instead. So that is a concern. In researching, how gravel pits affect property values, then there have been many studies that have been done, and I can share them with the council, you, Madam Mayor. But the short of it is property values drop depending on proximity to the gravel pit. Our house property value would drop about 30%, which for $1 million house is $300,000. That's significant. So there'll be a great concerns about that as well. Also researching through the. And we looked at as well, looking at, does Ontario actually need more gravel pit? And currently we actually right now, according to the government of Ontario, there's a glut or excess of aggregate in Ontario right now. So excess of aggregate is neither needed nor necessary for the time being. So an expansion of the gravel pit, I do not think would be necessary, although it is close, so I can understand why they want it. Looking at the Ontario Municipal Board rulings, property value impacts from aggregate operations are substantial. They're public knowledge. I can give you those studies if you wish. Forward those studies to you. But yeah, the property values decrease is substantial, and the municipal property assessment authority has officially recognized that property values diminish, and assessments are needed for housing in that area because of that reason, and should be looked at for committees who do the assessments. That is all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Could you make sure that you send the information to the clerk?
I can't. Could I get your email afterwards?
It's just getting on Dumfries.
I'll get that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councilors. Councilor Rose.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So one of the questions I had and was just wondering to have some clarification around was with the crushing. So there's the phase 1 area, And then there's the phase two. I understand that the crushing was supposed to be at the pit floor. But where was it gonna be for area one while you're working in that area? That's something I wasn't quite sure what the thought was there, because obviously it has to be, if it's gonna be on the pit floor, it has to be down in area one. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes, go ahead.
Wills, thanks very much. Easy answer for that one. There's a wedge in area one where the two radiuses don't overlap. Very commonly, you'll see for these licenses, it'll state that during initial operations, because we're not at the final pit floor elevation, while we sink ourselves down, they typically will see that you're permitted to crush at the current extraction level while you sink yourself into those limits. But once there's one spot in area one where we could crush that doesn't overlap those radiuses.
Can you put the map up, please, so that we can see what he's talking about? For clarity, thank you.
Yeah. Typically, they do try and build some flexibility into your startup, so when you do have a life of the site, while you're trying to get established, it's not realistic to be at that pit floor, but for the first year or two, there is typically a permission to crush where you're at just while you're getting established, and then you're required to get to the pit floor and work your way through phasing after that. So if you see just northeast of where the 250-meter radius is, there is this little area there in area one where we could sink ourselves down in and begin processing there.
So you're talking northeast, you're talking up just by that dotted line at the top of the screen?
No, so it's the very southwest corner, so
Southwest one.
bottom right, but there's a radius from the receptor, 250 meters. And it's essentially just a small area. If you see where area one is, and you just go down a touch, you'll see where the two circles meet. And if you just go to the right of that, there's a wedge there where they don't overlap area one. So included with the hatched area as well, the hatched area is area one, but that's just kind of suggesting phasing. So it kind of shows stripping of overburden and topsoil, and then operations to the west. This is just a suggested draft, but essentially we can only operate processing material where we're allowed. If we're not allowed to process in an area, you'll see it be hauled off site to be processed at another site, but we can only process where we're approved to. I suspect the vast majority of processing will occur right at the eastern limit of the 400 radius, because that way we could kind of set an established area and service the majority of the site from that area without having to move around too much. But the main goal is to get sunk low so that we do have all three benches to aid in noise distribution. But yeah, you just have to sink yourself down, and in the interim, work with where you're actually allowed.
See you with me.
So, Madam Mayor, as identified, as extraction occurs, the elevation changes, and yes, in time, the processing yard is actually on pit floor, and you've got the full advantage of the cutaway plus the earthen berm that would frame the portions of the property perimeter. And those are when you have your ideal conditions. What we have done is sometimes on operational notes, what the ministry has accepted is in those early years of extraction, when you're not necessarily down at the pit floor, we've required temporary baffling, acoustical wall systems and the like. And that's something that we're working with our consultant Burnside to look at what might be some interim measures until you get to a desirable elevation, and the full effects of the measures around the property perimeter can be a benefit to help deaden sound.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah. Councilor Rose, did you have a lot? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think maybe even the last 6 months, we approved a subdivision right next door. And I was kind of wondering about the timing of all this. I understand you want to get the area near the subdivision sorted first. and then move your way over. But what is, like, how is all this timing going to work, and how does that impact the 400-meter radius that we're talking about with as well? Thank you.
CEO McNeely.
So Madam Mayor, yes, Councillor Williams, you are correct. There is a draft approved plan of subdivision that actually abuts the west property line. So there's a common lot line, the proposed extraction, and the emerging urban fabric. And yes, it would be in closer proximity than the homes that exist there today that have been identified. But there's also something that's been flagged with our colleagues at Burnside as part of that noise assessment. Certainly, we know where the homes are going to be in relationship to the lot line because we've established setbacks along that common lot line. We also know what the floor elevation will be for those emerging residential lots. And that information has been provided to Burnside as well, because to some extent, because they're not at grade, they're actually sunk into themselves. It does help a bit in terms of mitigating against some of the noise that could emerge from the future extraction site. But all of that will be part of Burnside's review and will be calculated accordingly, and may assist in some of those interim measures that I've talked about in those early months or years of crushing operations in or adjacent to area 1 as shown on the aerial map that was up there a few minutes ago.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. I have a few comments. We have a practice in the township, or that most of the operations run 7 a.m. to 5 or 6, and then Saturdays you do it by permission only, and you go through the code. Would you be willing to do something like that?
We'd be willing to work with the township to come to a common agreement.
Perfect answer. Yeah, and other things that the reports that we'll have will be looked into and provided to you for response. So what happens now is all the questions and comments that we put forward as suggestions have to be answered before anything can go forward. They have to be answered by the applicant, and they have to be addressed. And once that's happened, there will be more meetings on this. So do make sure you sign in on the right so that you are notified. Keep your neighbors notified as well. I thought there'd be a lot more here tonight. I'm surprised there aren't. But yes, and let's all try to do the best we can with this. For everyone's benefit. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Tilly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to staff, I have a similar question to Councillor Williams. But this one is in regards to the traffic impact study. And I'm just wondering, I understand that something has to be done to set a baseline. But understanding that there will be changes in the neighborhood with the development that's going to be going into that area, would the traffic impact study have to be re-completed in order to move forward in this development if it was to happen?
CEO McNeely.
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Tilly. As we have witnessed in other gravel pit operations, we have taken a consistent perspective in terms of a longer term modeling, in terms of background traffic and the implications attributed to growth in urban air. Obviously, we're at the edge of the urban area. We know that there is approximately 3,000 persons worth of residential units that have been approved. A certain amount of that traffic is modeled to use the Wrigley Road corridor. Burnside is also doing a review of the transportation report and will be providing comments in terms of the potential impacts attributed to the emerging urban area of air and the assignment of traffic over the next 10 to 15 year period based on those earlier approvals and what implications it would have here. And we've done that with similar developments, both the subdivision that was draft approved to the immediate west of this site, but also other aggregate operations that have occurred further to the east or northeast, where the urban air traffic will migrate toward the city of Cambridge as a potential destination.
Any more questions? Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to see CFO or our building department, planning department. From what I understand, the house and barn was demolished on the property. So my first question was it demolished before it was sold? The second question is, do we have demolition permits applications in place? And third, was the GRCA notified?
CEO McNeil.
So Madam Mayor, the removal of the buildings was done around the same time as the property sale. In fact, portions of the structure that was removed was actually relocated to the son's property in Blandford Blunt. There were appropriate permits that were applied for under the Ontario Building Code.
Councillor Austin.
So we have copies of the permits, the GRCA gave clearance, et cetera.
CEO McNeil.
Madam Mayor, GRC doesn't require approvals. It's a demolition. It's not new construction. There was no expansion, or intrusion northerly toward the environmentally sensitive lands.
Councillor Austin, feel like a minute answer.
According to our website, on notes number 2, it says where there's concerns raised by the Ministry of Environment or Grand River Conservation Authority respecting demolition, it's the applicant's full responsibility to resolve such concerns and obtain the necessary approvals. So how do we know if there's a concern if the Ministry of Environment or the GRCA are not involved?
CEO McNeil.
What I indicated was there's no permit required from the Conservation Authority. They were circulated, there were no issues. We put up a siltation fence associated with the removal of the buildings and structures.
Councillor Austin, and you're reading comments in regards to an aggregate pit going in, you're not reading comments as to the housing.
Yeah,
So the
this
comments
is,
are
this is
separate.
a property where a demolition took place where I wasn't sure whether the demolition was done with the proper permits, which would affect this application. So,
But staff approved.
so the thing is that,
Proper permits
so
do
the
happen.
bottom line was the GRCA was. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Well, let's hope we can work together. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just wanted to make one other comment that, as mentioned, that there's a related process under the Aggregate Resources Act. So anybody here is welcome, and we invite comments through that process as well. It's always good to have your hand in both processes. That's managed by the Ministry of Natural Resources. We have there's a comment deadline on 9th of May, but we expect we'll get comments back from provincial ministries. We're also engaging First Nations communities as part of that process. So we're happy to share that with Michael as we work kind of together through all the comments that come in over the next several months.
Thank you. So, no other comments from anybody? Oh, hi, come on, if you want to speak to you. Come on, I need your name and address, please, dear.
Sorry, excuse my ignorance, because I'm not sure when, if the subdivision that's been approved. When is that all started? And I just want to know the timing of everything. If what this gentleman said about not wanting to buy a house in a gravel pit, like seriously, like is that in our best interest to be putting a gravel pit right in our subdivision that we haven't even built yet? I just don't understand the timing and everything of it.
So timing first, CEO McNeil?
So Madam Mayor, I can't speak to the timing of the aggregate operation. Perhaps I can get a little bit more context related to the adjacent plant subdivision. The ownership group is aware. They knew that before they advanced their for their approvals. They were also notified because they're adjacent property owner with 120 meters. So they're aware of the proposal on many different fronts. In terms of their timing, it is really conditional on the economic climate. Obviously across Ontario, it's not unique to the community here or the Township of Dumfries. There's been a significant slowdown in the construction of new housing. And I don't know a timing for them. They have a quite an extensive list of conditions that they have to address, including further technical studies and design drawings that will form part of a subdivision agreement. And no work has been advanced in that regard, which based on the current economic climate is not of a surprise.
And what is the
I'm
time?
sorry, can you give me a name and address, please?
Oh, sorry, it's Tony Summers Green, is 1550 Reedsville Road. Summers Green, SOMMERS.
You got it?
And what is the timing on the removal of the gravel? Does that depend on how, like, the whole process, like how long does it take to remove 1 million tons of gravel? I have no idea.
Do you have any time frame, hopeful time lines?
It's market dependent.
Okay.
Didn't you say in the presentation 1 million tons per year
Annual.
over a 7-year period, because you wanted 7 million tons total?
That would be the shortest time frame,
Okay,
but by no means are you guaranteed to get 1 million out every year.
okay, thank you.
No problem.
It's very, very North Dumfries to have a gravel pit shut down in 7 years. Very, I don't know if it's ever happened, but anyways. Did you want to make a comment? Go ahead.
Sure.
You can come to mic, please. Are you done? You summit?
Oh, sorry.
I think so.
You can come
I'll
back.
let you know.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to point out that the slides that we provided, Melanie walked you through where we showcased test pitting occurring in 2006. We obtained a license in 2010 for that parcel, and it was surrendered in 2021, I believe. So a 10-year time frame to get to 100 acres of property. And in that area, we successfully rehabbed over 300 acres in that Putnam area over a few decades here, but it is driven by the market, but we do strive ourselves on successful rehab because a lot of our pits are, we are entering into agreements with landowners, and we know that the success of opening up the next pit relies on effective rehab at our current ones. And we know that if we don't do a good job at our current ones, these are a finite resource where there's a limited amount of material in each site, and in order to maintain supply, you need to move on to the next. But we know that the best word to carry through a farmer is to know how good of a job we did at our previous one, and that's something we strive to continue to do.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. CEO McNeely and I have gone to AMO and Roma conferences. We've met with the minister multiple times. We have 8 briefs on with him right now. One of them is requesting any minimum distance standards set for everyday pits. And we're going for heavy industrial. He has not said no to our briefs yet. And so we're hopeful that a few things will pass. But we will keep fighting the good fight because we are the 3rd largest agri producing municipality in Ontario. And we really do need a break. So I hope we can work together. I hope we can get some of these things done. I'd really like to see the hours of operation, so that Saturday is my permission only. We do that with a lot of our other agri producers, and they are quite willing to do that. And if there's no other comments, the motion is Councillor Rose, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Oster, that PD report number 13-2026 be received. And that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration and a future report to council on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? Okay, thank you. We're just gonna close out the meetings if you want to speak out, I'll have your call. The bylaws, first second reading, please, Councillor Austin.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Walt, the following bylaw be read first and second time, bylaw number 3624-6, being the bylaw consent council meeting on February 24th, 2026.
All those in favor? Reading of the bylaws, please, Councillor Walt.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Oster, the bylaw number 3624-26 for the 3rd and final time and be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? Okay, thank you. And who gets the adjournment? Councillor Austin, who gets the adjournment?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Kelly, that whereas business for this council planning public meeting has been completed at 7:44 p.m. and be resolved that this meeting is adjourned.
All those in favor? Thank you.